Lily sat quietly beside Henry's bed, her fingers gently wrapping around his cold hand. "I believe in you," she whispered, her voice trembling with hope. Suddenly his fingers twitched, small but real. Lily gasped, tears filling her eyes. Before she could react, the door swung open. Victoria Lawson's sharp voice cut through the room. "What do you think you're doing? This is completely inappropriate." Her eyes burned with fury. "I'll have you fired for this." What will happen to Lily now? Stay tuned if you love emotional stories that inspire you, then you are at the right. Hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to be the first to get notified on a new episode of Heartstrings Stories. Don't forget to subscribe as it helps us in bringing more inspirational and emotional tales. Now let's get back into the story. When Henry Lawson was first rushed into St. Clay's private hospital, the doctors worked around the clock to keep him alive. His body was broken, his head bruised, and his chances of waking up were slim. Machines beeped endlessly, and the room smelled of sharp chemicals and sadness. His wife, Victoria, and his son, Ethan, stood by his bedside, their faces strangely calm, almost distant. Victoria didn't cry. She crossed her arms tightly and stared at Henry's pale face like he was already gone. She didn't whisper words of hope or hold his hand. She simply asked the doctor, "How long will this drag on?" Ethan, tall and cold like his mother, only glanced at his father once before turning his attention to his buzzing phone. He was already making calls to the company's board members, whispering about preparing for a leadership change. Henry's accident had been sudden, a terrible car crash that shattered his body and silenced his powerful voice. The man who once ruled boardrooms with sharp decisions now lay helpless, tied to tubes and wires. Victoria sighed as if this whole situation was a terrible inconvenience. "He wouldn't want to live like this," she told the doctor quickly, as if she needed to move things along. But the doctor explained that Henry's heart was strong, and his brain still showed faint signs of activity. There was still hope. Victoria didn't seem to care about hope. She cared about Henry's fortune, his businesses, and what would happen to all of it if he stayed in this half-alive state for too long. Ethan cared about the same. Every day they would visit, not to comfort Henry, but to argue about the company's future and when they could make decisions. Then Lily Bennett entered Henry's life. Lily was assigned as one of Henry's nurses, but from the first moment she walked into his room, something felt different. She didn't see a dying man. She saw someone trapped, someone who needed kindness, someone who needed to hear that his life still mattered. While other nurses performed their tasks quickly and quietly, Lily lingered. She read books aloud to him, played his favorite old songs, and sometimes just talked to him about her day. She told him about her cat, her clumsy moments, and how she dreamed of traveling to the seaside. She believed deep down that Henry could hear her. The other nurses whispered that Lily was wasting her time. Even Dr. Samuel Green told her gently, "He's not coming back, Lily. You need to accept that." But Lily shook her head every time. She couldn't explain it, but she felt his presence, something alive beneath the silence. Weeks passed, and still, his family showed no signs of care. Victoria would bring paperwork for the doctors to review, hinting about end-of-life decisions. Ethan grew bolder. One day, as Lily walked in with fresh flowers for Henry's room, she overheard Ethan speaking to Dr. Green in the hallway. "Let's be honest, Doctor," Ethan said coldly, his arms crossed. "There's no point in dragging this out. He's not waking up. Let's talk about pulling the plug." Lily's heart stopped. She pressed her back against the wall, listening as Dr. Green hesitated. "There are still small signs of brain activity," the doctor said carefully, "and as long as there's a chance—" But Ethan cut him off. "I need to take over the company. The board is waiting for me to step in. This is about the future now, not the past." Lily's hands tightened around the flowers. She felt anger bubbling inside her chest. How could they give up on him so easily? How could a son talk about his father like he was just a stepping stone? That night, Lily sat quietly beside Henry. She brushed his hair gently and whispered, "You have to come back, Henry. You're not alone. I'm here. I believe in you, even if no one else does." The machines beeped softly in response, the only sound in the cold, sterile room. But somewhere beyond the silence, Henry heard her. Lily couldn't sleep that night. Ethan's cold words kept replaying in her head like a broken record. Let's talk about pulling the plug. The thought of Henry being taken away, while trapped, unheard, unseen, it filled her with a fire she had never known. The next morning, Lily returned to Henry's room earlier than her shift required. She glanced around, making sure the halls were empty. Then she quietly slipped inside, her heart racing. She closed the door softly behind her and pulled out her small music player. She knew she was breaking the rules. Nurses were supposed to follow strict routines, but she didn't care. If no one else would fight for Henry, she would. She placed small headphones on Henry's ears and played his favorite classical symphonies. She didn't know how she knew they were his favorite. It had slipped out of Victoria's mouth weeks ago when she mentioned how boring his music was. But somehow, Lily believed it mattered. As the soft violins filled the room, Lily sat close and whispered to him, "I know you can hear me, Henry. Please don't give up. I'm not giving up on you." She would read to him for hours, stories filled with life and adventure. She told him about a seaside town she always dreamed of visiting, where the breeze smelled like salt and happiness. Sometimes she gently rubbed his hands with warm cloths, slowly and carefully, just to remind his skin that someone cared. Day after day she risked everything. She adjusted his blankets with more attention than the others. She told him jokes. She even sang softly to him when the halls were quiet at night. But Dr. Green noticed. One afternoon, as Lily walked out of Henry's room, Dr. Green stopped her. His face was firm but tired. "Lily, I know you're spending extra time with Mr. Lawson." Lily's heart thudded in her chest. I'm just doing my job, sir." "You're crossing a line," he said gently but firmly. "You can't become this attached. We've seen no progress. You need to focus on other patients, ones who actually have a chance." Lily's throat tightened. "He does have a chance, I can feel it." Dr. Green shook his head. "You're young. You still think effort always changes outcomes. But sometimes, no matter how hard we try, we can't bring them back." "But what if you're wrong?" Lily whispered. "What if he's still in there waiting for someone to care?" Dr. Green sighed, resting a heavy hand on her shoulder. "You need to let go. This isn't healthy, for you or for him." Lily watched him walk away, her heart sinking. But deep down she refused to stop. That night she sat by Henry's bed again, holding his hand as his favorite music played softly in his ears. She gently pressed his palm, her thumb tracing small circles. "You don't have to fight alone," she whispered. "I'm here." And then, it happened. The heart monitor, steady and slow, suddenly spiked. Beep, beep, beep. Lily's eyes snapped to the screen. She looked down. His fingers, his cold, still fingers, squeezed her hand. It wasn't a twitch, it wasn't a reflex, it was real. "Henry," she gasped, her voice cracking. The squeeze happened again. Stronger this time. A response. Lily shot to her feet, calling out, "Dr. Green, somebody come quickly." Footsteps rushed in. Dr. Green and two other nurses appeared, their eyes wide. "What is it?" Dr. Green asked, stepping toward the bed. "He squeezed my hand," Lily cried. "He's responding. Look at the heart monitor. It jumped just now." Dr. Green glanced at the screen, then back at Henry. He picked up Henry's limp hand and called his name firmly, but Henry didn't move. Dr. Green tried again. No response. "Lily," he said quietly, "it was probably just a muscle spasm. It happens sometimes." "No!" Lily shook her head, desperate. "It wasn't a spasm. He squeezed me, twice." Dr. Green's face softened, but there was no belief in his eyes. "You're tired. You've been working too hard. I know you want this, but sometimes we see what we wish for." Lily's chest filled with frustration and helplessness. "Why won't anyone believe me?" "Go home, Lily," Dr. Green said, his voice low. "Please, get some rest." The other nurses led her away gently. As the door closed behind her, Lily felt tears stinging her eyes. But inside the quiet room, as the soft music continued to play in Henry's ears, his fingers twitched again, just slightly, as if holding on. And this time, no one saw it but him. Lily couldn't stop thinking about the way Henry squeezed her hand. No matter what Dr. Green said, she knew what she felt. It was real. It was Henry reaching out, trying to hold on, trying to come back. The next morning, she returned to his room, her heart pounding with both hope and fear. She closed the door softly behind her and pulled out the same small music player. She placed the headphones over Henry's ears just like before and whispered, "I know you're in there, Henry. Please, if you can hear me, try again. I'm not going anywhere." She sat by his side for hours, carefully watching his every movement. This time, she gently brushed her fingers along his palm and told him stories about the seaside again, about the little blue house she always dreamed of. And then it happened, a faint, slow grip. His fingers curled slightly around hers. Her breath caught in her throat. She wanted to scream for help, but she stopped herself. Last time, no one believed her. She needed more proof. Over the next few days, Lily returned to Henry's room whenever she could. She read to him, played his favorite songs, and sometimes just sat in silence, letting him feel her presence. Slowly, Henry began showing more signs of life. One day, as Lily told him a funny story about dropping a whole tray of food in the cafeteria, his eyelids fluttered. Not much, but enough for her to see. Another day, she asked him simple yes or no questions, and when she asked him to squeeze her hand for yes, she felt the faintest pressure in her palm. It wasn't her imagination. Henry was trying. She could feel it. But every time she told Dr. Green or the other nurses, they brushed her off. "It's just involuntary movement," one nurse told her kindly. "It doesn't mean he's waking up." Even Dr. Green gently warned her again. "You can't give yourself false hope, Lily." But Lily didn't care what they said. She believed in him. At home, her mother began to notice the toll it was taking. One evening, as they sat at the small kitchen table, her mother looked at her with soft, worried eyes. "Sweetheart, I know you care about your patients, but this is different. You're getting too attached." Lily pushed her food around on her plate, her appetite gone. "Mom, he's not just another patient. I can feel it. He's in there. No one else believes it, but I do." Her mother reached across the table and held her hand. "Honey, you're giving your whole heart to someone who might never wake up. You're putting your life on hold for a man who doesn't even know you're there." "He does know," Lily whispered fiercely. "I can't explain it, but he knows." Her mother's voice softened, but her warning was clear. "Just be careful. Sometimes the people we try to save can pull us under if we hold on too tightly." Lily couldn't sleep that night. Her mother's words clung to her like a heavy coat. Was she crossing a line? Was she losing herself in this fight? But deep down, she knew she couldn't stop. The next day, she returned to Henry's room. She leaned in close to his ear and whispered, "You're doing so well, Henry. I know it's hard, but I'll be here. Every day. I won't give up on you." Just as she said the words, the door swung open. Victoria Lawson stood in the doorway, her arms crossed, her sharp eyes narrowing at the sight before her. "What exactly are you doing?" Victoria's voice was cold and sharp. Lily jumped back, her heart racing. I was just encouraging him." "Encouraging him?" Victoria sneered. "You're leaning into his ear like you're his lover. This is completely unprofessional." He's showing signs. He's responding," Lily stammered, her voice shaking. Victoria stepped closer, her voice icy. "Enough of this nonsense. I've seen you spending far too much time in here. This stops now. I'm requesting that you be removed from his care immediately." Lily's breath caught. "No, please, you can't." But Victoria's mind was made up. She turned on her heel and stormed out, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. Lily stood frozen, her chest tightening in panic. She could feel everything slipping through her fingers. She looked back at Henry, his peaceful face unchanged, and whispered, "Please don't let this be goodbye." But deep inside, she knew Victoria would do everything to keep her away. Victoria wasted no time. The very next morning, she stormed into the hospital administrator's office, her face a perfect mask of concern, but her words sharp like knives. "That nurse, Lily Evans, is crossing boundaries," Victoria said, her tone laced with just enough fake sadness to sound convincing. "She's whispering into my father's ear like she's in love with him. It's sick. She's manipulating him, clinging to a fantasy. I won't allow this behavior to continue." The administrator frowned. "We've had no formal reports of misconduct." "Well, I'm making one now," Victoria snapped. "I want her suspended immediately. She's become obsessed." The administrator reluctantly agreed to begin an investigation. By the afternoon, Lily was called into his office. Her heart dropped when she saw the formal complaint on his desk, with Victoria's signature neatly printed at the bottom. "She says you've developed an unhealthy attachment to Mr. Lawson," the administrator said quietly. "She's accusing you of manipulating him and interfering with the family's wishes." "That's not true," Lily cried, her chest tightening. "I care about him, yes, but I never crossed the line. I'm just trying to help him. He's responding to me. He's waking up." The administrator shook his head slowly. "There's no medical record of any significant changes in Mr. Lawson's condition. Without proper documentation, it just looks like you've let your emotions cloud your judgment." Lily felt the walls closing in around her. Please don't take me away from him." "I have no choice," the administrator said softly. "You're suspended effective immediately. You're not allowed back in Mr. Lawson's room or anywhere in the hospital until this is resolved." Lily's world crumbled in an instant. She left the office in a daze, her badge and keys handed over, like she was some stranger being cast out. Tears blurred her vision as she walked out of St. Clair's private hospital, the place that had become her second home. But it wasn't the hospital she cared about. It was Henry. She couldn't say goodbye. She didn't even get to explain. At home, Lily collapsed onto her bed and buried her face in her pillow. The weight of losing him pressed down on her chest like a stone. She replayed every moment they had shared, the small hand squeezes, the faint eye movements, the quiet bond that had grown between them. And now, it was all gone. Her mother found her hours later, still lying there, silent. "Honey," her mother said gently, sitting on the edge of the bed, "you gave your heart to him, that's beautiful, but sometimes life doesn't let us finish the stories we start." Lily wiped her tears, but didn't answer. Her mother's words were meant to comfort, but they felt like a cruel ending she wasn't ready to accept. She imagined Henry alone in that cold, sterile room, with no one to talk to him, no music to fill the silence. What if he thought she abandoned him? What if he was still fighting, still waiting for her? Days passed. The hospital made no effort to call her back. Victoria's influence was strong. No one challenged her. Lily sat at home every day, staring at her phone, willing it to ring. But it never did. Meanwhile, at the hospital, life moved on. The nurses changed Henry's sheets, checked his monitors, but no one spoke to him anymore. The soft music Lily had once played was gone. His room felt colder, emptier. And then, one quiet morning, something incredible happened. As the sunlight peeked through the blinds and painted soft lines across the floor, Henry's eyes, sealed shut for so many long, silent months, fluttered open. Slowly, carefully, his gaze shifted, confused and weak, but undeniably awake. His heart monitor beeped faster. A nurse, glancing at the screen, rushed in and gasped. "Doctor! Doctor! He's awake!" she shouted, running into the hall. The room flooded with doctors and nurses, voices swirling with disbelief and excitement. But Henry's eyes scanned the faces, looking for someone. Her. His lips trembled as he whispered, broken and soft, "Where is she?" No one understood who he meant. No one knew he was asking for the one person who had believed in him all along. Lily. Henry's voice was rough and faint, barely more than a whisper, but his words were clear. "Where is she?" The doctors froze, their excitement quickly shifting to confusion. "Who are you asking for, Mr. Lawson?" Dr. Green leaned in, gently placing his hand on Henry's shoulder. Henry swallowed hard, his throat dry from months of silence. He closed his eyes briefly, then opened them again, forcing out the words. "Lily. Where's Lily?" The nurses exchanged uneasy glances. Dr. Green hesitated, unsure of how to answer. Victoria, who had rushed to the hospital as soon as she heard the news, stepped into the room just in time to hear her father's question. Her jaw tightened. She had hoped, expected that Henry would ask about the company, about his son Ethan, about anything but that nurse. But instead, his first thought was of Lily. "She's just a nurse, Dad," Victoria said quickly, stepping closer to his bed. "She's not important. You don't need to worry about her." Henry turned his head slightly, his gaze slow but determined. "I need to see her." Victoria's smile was tight and cold. "I'm afraid she's no longer working here." Henry's heart rate jumped on the monitor. His fingers twitched against the sheets as he tried to push himself up. His muscles were too weak, but his determination was fierce. Why? What happened? Victoria sat at the edge of his bed, lowering her voice as if to comfort him. She gave up on you. She broke hospital rules and got too close. When things didn't go the way she wanted, she walked away. She's gone, Dad. Henry's brow furrowed in confusion. That didn't sound like Lily. She would never give up. She had told him, again and again, that she would never leave. "Liar," he rasped. Victoria's smile faltered for a brief second, but she quickly recovered. "Dad, you've been asleep for months. Your mind is confused. You must have imagined things." Henry's breathing grew heavier, his frustration bubbling to the surface. "She was here. Every day." "Yes, she visited," Victoria said carefully, "but she crossed the line. She cared too much, and when I asked her to step back, she chose to leave." Henry's eyes locked onto hers, his gaze sharper now. "I don't believe you." Victoria's patience cracked, her voice hardening. "Why are you so focused on her? She's just a nurse. Your family is here. I'm here." But Henry didn't care about titles or family names in that moment. He cared about the person who had fought for him when everyone else had given up. "I won't continue treatment," Henry said slowly, each word pulling all his energy. "Not without her." The room fell silent. Even Dr. Green was caught off guard. "Mr. Lawson, I understand you're upset," Dr. Green said carefully, "but you're still very weak. You need physical therapy, speech therapy, and constant medical care to fully recover." Henry's jaw clenched. "I don't care. Bring Lily back, or I stop. Everything." Victoria's face flushed with anger. "Dad, that's ridiculous. You can't refuse treatment over some emotional attachment." Henry's breathing grew heavier, his heart monitor beeping faster. His voice came out as a strained whisper, but his words were clear as ice. "Find her." Victoria stood up, clenching her fists. She couldn't believe her father, her proud, cold, business-minded father, was threatening his own recovery over a nurse. "I'm doing this for your own good," Victoria snapped. "You don't know what you're saying." Henry's eyes didn't waver. "I know exactly what I'm saying." Dr. Green stepped in gently. "Victoria, I think we should consider his request. For his mental and emotional recovery—" "No!" Victoria barked. "She's not coming back." Henry closed his eyes, his breathing slow but steady. "Then I won't either." Victoria's lips parted in shock. "Dad, you're being unreasonable." Henry turned his head away from her, staring out the window. His silence was his answer. The tension in the room thickened. Victoria stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Outside, she pressed her back against the wall, her mind racing. She had worked too hard to control everything. His company, his care, his future. She wouldn't let Lily ruin it. Inside the room, Henry whispered to himself, barely audible, "Come back, Lily, please, come back." And deep in his heart, he hoped, prayed, that somehow she would hear him. Henry Lawson had never liked the media. As a powerful businessman, he had spent years carefully avoiding the cameras and reporters who constantly chased him. But today, he wanted them. No, he needed them. Sitting in his wheelchair, still weak but determined, Henry faced the sea of flashing lights and microphones at the hospital's press room. His daughter, Victoria, stood stiffly to the side, trying to convince him to stick to the speech she had prepared. But Henry had his own plan. Reporters buzzed with excitement. After months of silence, Henry Lawson, the man everyone thought might never wake up, was finally speaking. Henry cleared his throat, his voice still rough but strong enough to command the room. "Thank you all for coming," he began, gripping the edges of the podium to steady himself. "You've probably heard many things. That I was gone, that my company was in new hands, that my family had made peace with losing me." The room quieted, every ear tuned in. "But I'm here today because someone refused to give up on me, someone who didn't see me as a title or a burden or a lost cause." Henry's eyes scanned the crowd. Reporters leaned forward, scribbling frantically. "She's not family, she's not a business partner, she's not someone who stood to gain anything from me. And yet, she's the reason I'm alive." Victoria's face paled. Henry's voice softened, but his words landed like thunder. "Her name is Lily Evans, a nurse who sat by my side when everyone else walked away. She talked to me. She believed in me. She fought for me when my own family did not." Whispers rippled through the crowd. "I owe her my life," Henry said, his throat tightening with emotion. "But more than that, I owe her my heart." Victoria's hands clenched into fists. This wasn't part of the speech. He was going off script. He was destroying everything she had carefully planned. Henry continued, his gaze sharp and clear. "I love her. I love Lily Evans, and I want the world to know it." Gasps echoed across the room. Reporters began shouting questions. "Who is Lily Evans? Is she still working at this hospital? How does your family feel about this?" Victoria stepped forward, trying to take control. "This is not the right time for personal announcements." But Henry cut her off. "It's the perfect time. I want her to hear me. I want her to know. I didn't forget. I didn't stop fighting. I'm here because of her." Victoria's voice trembled with frustration. "She's gone, Dad. She left. She doesn't care anymore." Henry's eyes burned with certainty. "You're wrong. She's the only one who truly cared." Across town, in her small apartment, Lily sat frozen on her couch, watching the live broadcast on her old TV. She pressed her hand to her mouth, her heart racing as tears streamed down her cheeks. He remembered her. He still wanted her, but fear tangled inside her chest. Could she really go back? After being accused, humiliated, and pushed out, her mother, sitting beside her, squeezed her hand. "Go to him, Lily." "I can't," Lily whispered, her voice shaking. "What if his family still hates me? What if this makes his life harder?" Her mother smiled softly. "The only thing that matters is what he wants, and right now he wants you." But Lily stayed frozen, unsure if she was brave enough to face him again. Hours later, as rain poured steadily over the quiet streets, Lily heard a soft knock at her door. When she opened it, her breath caught in her throat. There he was, Henry, soaked from head to toe, gripping the sides of his wheelchair, water dripping from his hair and jacket. "Henry," she whispered, barely believing her eyes. He smiled, tired but full of life. "I told them I'd come find you myself." Her heart thudded wildly. You came all the way here, in the rain." His voice cracked with raw honesty. "I would have come through a storm to find you." Lily's tears mixed with the rain as she stepped closer, unsure whether to laugh or cry. Henry looked up at her, his voice soft but firm. "Will you come back with me?" She stared at him, her heart battling fear and longing, and just as she opened her mouth to answer, the screen fades to black. The rain had stopped, but Lily's heart still raced like a storm. Henry sat in his wheelchair at her doorstep, dripping wet, shivering, but smiling like he hadn't smiled in years. "Will you come back with me?" he asked again, his voice steady despite the cold. Lily's tears spilled over as she knelt beside him. "Of course, Henry, I never wanted to leave you." Without waiting another second, she wrapped her arms around him tightly, feeling the warmth of his heartbeat against her cheek. It was real, he was really there. Henry's arms slowly lifted to hold her back, weak, but full of purpose. "Let's go home," he whispered. And so they did. The hospital's halls felt different when Lily returned, not cold and sterile like before. This time they felt full of hope. Word had spread about Henry's public declaration, and no one dared question his decision now. Victoria and Ethan had vanished from sight, humiliated and furious that Henry had chosen Lily over them. They tried to challenge his decisions, but it was too late. Henry didn't just recover, he transformed. With Lily by his side, he made a bold choice. He sold his shares in the family company, walked away from the business empire, and began dedicating his fortune to creating better care for patients like himself, those who had been forgotten, trapped in silence, and left behind by their own families. He opened rehabilitation centers, funded training for nurses, and even started a foundation in Lily's name to support families who couldn't afford long-term care. Lily worked right beside him, not as his nurse anymore, but as his partner, his love. Together they built something beautiful, something real. Victoria and Ethan watched from afar as their control slipped away. They had planned to take everything, to rule the family legacy, but Henry had outsmarted them. One rainy afternoon, as Henry and Lily walked hand in hand through one of the new care centers, Henry finally told her the final piece of the story. "There's something I need to tell you," he said gently. Lily smiled, brushing his hair back. "What is it?" "I changed my will, right before the accident." She blinked in surprise. "You did?" Henry nodded. "I realized that all the money in the world meant nothing if I couldn't use it to do something good. I left most of it to charity, to the foundation, and to you." Lily's eyes widened, her heart skipping. "Henry, I never wanted your money. I just wanted you to live." He squeezed her hand, his smile soft. "I know. That's why I trust you with it." She looked down, tears filling her eyes again, overwhelmed by his trust and his love. Victoria and Ethan never saw it coming. They had counted on power, wealth, and greed, but Henry had quietly taken it all away from them, long before they could get their hands on it. When the will was read, Victoria's face turned pale with rage. Ethan stormed out, furious that the empire he had planned to seize now belonged to strangers and to Lily. But none of that mattered to Henry anymore. His heart now belonged to the woman who had saved him, not just from the coma, but from the emptiness his life had once been. Years later, Henry and Lily stood side by side at the grand opening of a new care center, cutting the ribbon together. Reporters gathered again, asking questions, snapping photos, but this time Henry didn't shy away. When asked what had changed him, Henry smiled and answered simply, "Love." Their story became one whispered through hospital halls, a story of second chances, quiet bravery, and the incredible power of one person who refused to give up. Henry and Lily didn't just build a new life. They built a legacy of kindness that would last far beyond them, and as they walked forward hand in hand into their new beginning, they knew they had already found everything they would ever need.